of Arts and Science. Welcome to St. Joseph's College of Arts and Science, PG and Research Department of Mathematics proudly presents International Webinar on Recent Advances in Mathematical Science and its Application, presided by Secretary of St. Joseph's College of Arts and Science, Felicitation members, Principal and Head of the Department of Computer Science, Vice Principal and Head of the Department of Mathematics, Controller of Examination and Head of the Department of Physics, Dean of Studies and Head of the Department of BPM and BBACA, Resource Person, Dr. S. Parthaban, Associate Professor, Department of Mathematics, Vikman University, Andhra Pradesh, India. Dr. Nandaraju Nagaluriti Kumarihai, College of Technology, Department of Mathematics, Muscat. Organizing Secretaries, Dr. S. Angel Moose, Assistant Professor from Department of Mathematics. Dr. C. Devi Shyamala, Assistant Professor from Department of Mathematics. The end.
The second session of this webinar will be started now. May I now invite Mrs. Arogya Mary, Assistant Professor from Department of Mathematics, to invite the resource person of this webinar.
Lesson known to all the dignitaries, researchers, and my dear students. On behalf of PG and Research Department of Mathematics, I bid a warm welcome to all. I am happy that I am given an opportunity to introduce resource person, eminent professor, Dr. Nandiraju Nagamaruti Kumari. Ma'am has done BA Triple Mathematics course at Asmania University in 1993. She pursued MSc in Pure Mathematics in SV University. Ma'am has received a PhD degree in graph theory. Ma'am has published more than 12 articles in reputed international journals. She has the experience of conducting seminars and giving lectures. She has been chief examiner for BTU examinations and acted as a member of Board of Studies in Reva University. Ma'am has 26 years of teaching experience and well-versed in many subjects in mathematics. Ma'am is multifaceted personality and have motivated the students to achieve their goals and objectives. With these few words, I welcome Ma'am to take over the session. Thank you all.
A very good morning to all of you. Thank you, Ms. Yamila Madam, for those good words about me. I hope I am audible to all of you.
Yes, ma'am, audible.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, it is a wonderful opportunity for me to present my views on this particular webinar. Yes, thank you so much. Now, my topic is the groups as graphs. So in this, I presume that all the audience, the students and the staff are familiar with the concept of groups as well as the graphs, right? So the main agenda of my session is how to link these two different structures. One is the abstract structure and the other is the discrete structure, the graph. So when we were studying the abstract structure like a group, it is really explaining that pictorially, it will be a boon for the student community. I hope I say that it is really a boon for a student community, because when I was studying and when I was a student, it was a nightmare for me to understand the abstract algebra, the algebraic constructions and the group, the algebraic structures is very difficult for a student to understand. But when in that particular quest, I have just come across to the great insight of the research work done by Dr. Vasantha Kandaswamy. She has made a wonderful research on the groups as well as how to make a group as a graph. That is a wonderful work, and the most efforts she has made in that in her research. So I have gone to such type of and apart from that, there are many other people who have done on this. But the real motivation for my presentation and my research work on this topic is really the motivation is Dr. Vasantha Kandaswamy. So I want to thank her in this behalf. So let me I hope my screen is visible to all of you. Yes.
No, ma'am, your screen is not visible.
Yes, ma'am. I hope now it is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is Dr. Nagamati Nandiraju. I am here because I love to exchange the ideas. Regarding this equation, I will explain about this once I complete my session. Because whenever we start any particular auspicious program, generally we start with a prayer. I feel that my mathematics session should start with such a beautiful equation. So my topic is the groups as graphs. The study of these groups is not considered very easy due to its abstract nature. So yes, the study becomes far more interesting in the finite groups are represented in the form of graphs. I hope that all of us we have the knowledge of a group as a group is an algebraic structure with a particular binary operation and which satisfies so and so conditions, whether it is closure, the associativity, the identity, and the inverse. Once it is satisfied, all those conditions for a algebraic structure with respect to so and so operation, then we say that it is a group. You can have examples like the set of integers under addition, the set of real numbers under addition, and under multiplication, what are the real number, the rational numbers without the unity, without the zero, the non-zero elements. All those are the examples when you consider the infinite structures. So now the main agenda of this particular session is to discuss about the finite groups. As all of us have studied the groups as well as the finite groups, the group which is having a finite number of elements. So in this, what are the finite groups? To understand this, you can come through the square roots of unity, the cube roots of unity, under multiplication, and all the modular groups under addition. Such type of some examples you can consider for the finite groups. So in this particular concept, when I consider about a finite group, how to make a graph, a group which can be explained by a graph is the beauty of the topic to understand about a group structure. So in this, the zero divisor graphs have, it has been taken a vital role in the research where the zero divisors have been explained by using the graph. The name zero divisor itself actually, frankly speaking about the zero divisor itself is a very interesting topic. Why? Because we never talk about the divisors of a zero, right? It generally doesn't happen. But when you talk about zero divisor, that itself is an interesting term in mathematics. So that creates some eye-opener to make such type of graphs. So started with the zero divisors graph and the identity graphs. These are all linked with the abstract structures of group as in the groups. Of course, zero divisors are in a ring structure, it is present in the ring structures. So now what is meant by the zero divisor? The zero divisor is nothing but when you take a product of any two elements, when you take a product of any two elements, then you are able to understand that the zero divisor is A into B is equal to 0 when A is not equal to B. So that means A is not equal to 0 and B is also not equal to 0. So what do you mean by that? Both the non-zero elements you are multiplying and their product you are getting as a zero element, which is really fantastic, right? Whenever you multiply a number with 0, you will get 0 obviously. But both the numbers are non-zero numbers and multiplying them and you will get a 0 element. Really, that is what the secret behind this zero divisor. When such a zero divisor element, when you study in rings, really that itself is an interesting topic. Then how to explain this by using a graph is another interesting topic to understand about the zero divisors and their graphs. I hope my screen is moving, right? Can anybody respond me, please? Are you able to see the screen, the slide by slide? Yes, thank you. So now in this session, just I want to explain about the identity graph, what is meant by the zero divisor graph, what is the inverse graph, the augmented inverse graphs, the rainbow connected graphs, the strongly rainbow connected graphs, the generator graphs, the isomorphic graphs based on isomorphic groups. These are what the topics I want to make you to understand. Let us now fundamental topics on groups and what is meant by a group. Generally, a group is an algebraic structure with the binary operation. I don't want to give all those fundamentals now because all of you are aware. I came to know that Dr. Angelmos has told me that all the students are of PG students. So I feel that I presume that all of you know the fundamentals of group structures. Yes. And I came to understand that you people have studied the graph structure also. The graph is nothing but the network between the nodes and the edges. Whatever in between the two nodes, if there is an edge, then we say that it is a graph. That's it. So depending upon the graph and the group structures, we are now how to make a link of the connection. See the beautiful way how Dr. Vasantha Kandaswamy has explained this, and later our research work with my dear students, I have done the work. I will show you one by one. Let us go to this group now, Z3. What is Z3? Is a group and is a modular group, of course, under addition. And that means 0, 1, and 2. These are the three elements which are there in the group Z3 under addition. And all of us know that 0 is the identity element, correct? So how to draw the identity graph using this in such a way means, it is when you are having an identity element, generally whenever you say that there is a group means that identity element is of course present in the group. Now that identity element will be joining with the other vertices which are present in that group. So that is what the fundamental rule here. That means you observe here, 0 is the identity element and 0 is adjacent with 1 and 0 is adjacent with 2 also. Okay. Then where this 1 and 2 edge has come, this is the other elements other than 0 edges, other than the elements which are adjacent with the 0, how the other elements have been joined as, the operation is what here? Addition, right? When you add these two, that is 1 plus 2 is 0. 1 plus 2 is equal to 0, right? Under modulo 3. So if such thing happens that if x plus y or x star y is equal to the identity element, then x is adjacent to y. Like that, the definition has been given. So this is what the identity graph. I hope you are able to follow me. Yes, my group is consisting of the elements 0, 1, and 2. So when I draw the graph, the corresponding graph of this particular group, so I take the element, which is the identity element, and I join the identity element with the remaining vertices. That means 0 to 1 and 0 to 2. Now, how to join the other vertices means if their operation, now my operation is here addition. So when I join both of them, if I get the identity element, then only there will be an edge in between. So let us have one more example to understand this concept of the identity graph. Let us look at this graph Z4, which is consisting of 0, 1, 2, and 3. So as I told you, the identity element is of course 0. Now I'm talking about under addition. As you see 0 is present, you can say that it is addition. So now 0 must be, the identity element must be adjacent with 1, 2, and 3. Now coming to the other two elements, how they are adjacent? Because 1 in plus 3, what is 1 plus 3 is 0 under modulo 4. Hence 1 and 3 are adjacent. But why not 2 and 3? Because 2 plus 3 is not 0, right? 2 plus 3 is 1. And so it is not adjacent. And 1 plus 2 is 3, which is not 0. And hence 1 plus 2, 1 and 2 is also not adjacent. I hope you are able to understand the graph. This Z4 is a graph consisting of the elements 0, 1, 2, and 3. And the identity graph is defined in such a way that the identity element will be adjacent with all the remaining vertices, and the the vertices which are other than identity element will be adjacent by satisfying the condition that whenever you add or whenever the operation x star y is equal to the identity element, suppose, then there is an edge. So like that, the definition was given. So 1 plus 3 is 0, hence 1 and 3 are adjacent. 2 plus 3 is not equal to 0 and hence it is not adjacent. And 1 plus 2 also not equal to 0, hence this is not, they are not adjacent. I hope the definition is clear about the identity graph. Let us look at this graph where this group Z12 under modulo 12. That is 0, 1, 2 and so on 11. As I said, the identity element is 0 and it will be adjacent with all the other vertices like 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, every element it is adjacent. Look at the other vertices, that means other than the 0, where the adjacency is there. If you observe 5 plus 7, which is 0, right? So 5 and 7 are adjacent. If you see 4 and 8, 4 plus 8 is 0, so they are adjacent. 9 plus 3 is 0, so they are adjacent. 10 plus 2 is 0, they are adjacent. 11 plus 1 is 0, they are adjacent. Apart from this, 6 plus 5 is 11, so they are not adjacent. I hope it's more clear about the adjacency between elements other than the identity element. So this explains well about the identity graph. So identity graph can be explained, the group where the finite group can be expressed as the identity graph in this way. And then let us move on to the ring structure. What do you mean by a ring? A ring is an algebraic structure with two binary operations, which should satisfy. I hope I don't want to give again all the fundamentals of the ring structure. I'll just go to the zero divisor. What do you mean by the zero divisor? The zero divisor is nothing but when you have two elements A and B, where the product of those two must be equal to 0. And of course, it should be very clear that our A and B must not be 0. And my operation are here, the ring is with addition and multiplication. So now, how to define this zero divisor as a graph? So that is what here, the beauty here is, the zero divisor graph of a ring R is a simple graph. As you people have the knowledge of graph structures, a simple graph is nothing but a graph where you don't have any multiple edges and loops. Multiple edges means in between the two vertices, if you have more than one edge, that means if I have suppose 2 to 3, one more edge, again some more loops are here, suppose it cannot be a simple graph. So a ring, whenever you are representing as a simple graph first of all, and then between the two elements A and B, if and only if AB is equal to 0 suppose, then only there will be an edge. So that is what the meaning of it. So whenever there is the product will become 0, where the two elements are not equal to 0 suppose, then we say that it is a zero divisor graph. But when you the zero divisors, but when you define the zero divisor graph, of course, your zero will be adjacent with all the other vertices. As I told you, the zero is the element which is the identity element under addition in the ring, and that element will be adjacent with all the other elements. Apart from that, if any two elements, if you want to join, the main concept here is to join those two vertices, their product must be equal to 0. So now look at this graph Z6. 0 is adjacent with 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That is trivial case, right? Now, apart from that, we can observe that 3 into 2 is what? 0, right? Under modulo 6, we are under modulo 6 now. So 3 2s are 6, 3 2s are 0. And similarly, 3 into 4 is also 0. And hence, 3 2 and 3 4 are adjacent. I hope you are able to understand the graph. The zero divisor graph is in this way. You will explain that the vertices are adjacent if and only if their product becomes 0 under the given graph. Okay, that is what the zero divisor graph. And let us come to the cyclic group. What do you mean by the cyclic group? That means whenever we talk about a cyclic group, we generally call that the group satisfying. It should be a group, of course, and you will be selecting a leading element, and that will be ruling the whole other elements. Yes. How can we express the let me how can we express the group? The cyclic group means whenever I take a G, my screen is visible, right? All of you?
Yes, ma'am, your screen is visible.
So when I consider, suppose the group is 1, minus 1, then I have to select such an element and which should rule all the elements in the group. That means it is just like a head of the family. When I consider 1 power, whatever the number I write, I'll get only 1, right? But I'll take minus 1 and I raise the power, then whatever the power if I rise, I'll get minus 1 power minus 1 is 1. And minus 1 power 2 gives me 1, and so minus 1 the whole cube gives me minus 1. So however the power is increased for this element, I get all the other elements. So I say that this minus 1 is a beautiful number which is ruling the whole group. So we say that minus 1 is the generator, and also we write it as the cyclic group generated by minus 1. Similarly, if I consider the group G as 1, minus 1, I and minus I, in this, whatever I do with the identity element, I never get the other elements. And whatever I do with minus 1, how I have done here, minus 1 power anything if I do, why I am taking power, by the way? Because my group is under multiplication, okay? So I is multiplied by any number if I consider, any number in the sense how many times I multiply I, then I get all the members of the family. As I power 1 is I square is minus 1, I cube is I power 4 is 1, like that. It gives you all the other elements. So similarly, minus I also, whatever the power you raise, minus I power 1, minus I square, minus I cube, all these minus I power 1 is minus I. Minus I the whole square gives you 1. Is it? Minus 1 the whole square it is. Minus I the whole cube is giving me minus I the whole square, which is minus the I square into minus I. Minus I the whole square into minus I. So it is I square is minus 1 into minus I. So I am getting it as I. It is giving me my I also. So like that, when I raise the power of minus I, I'm getting the other elements in the family. So what I say here is the two elements I and minus I, both of them are leading. So it is I and generated by I as well as minus I. And when you raise the power, it is going on in a cyclic way and then moving to the same elements. So like that, I'm able to get the power of whatever the elements, whatever I'm considering. So that gives you. Now let me consider with Z5, suppose. In my Z5, I'm taking now the multiplication, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4 I consider, and I raise the power of anything of for 1, I don't get any other elements except 1. So 1 cannot be the generator. So there is a very important loss of being given afterwards, cyclic groups, consider identity element where we the role of the family. Coming to the other elements, when you take 2 power 1 is 2 and 2 square is 4. Then cube is 2 cube is 3. Cube is 8 under modulo 5 it is 3. And 2 power 4 is 1. Correct? 2 power 4 is 16 under modulo 5 it is 1. So what it is happening now? The element 2 is now if you find out 2 power 5 then it gives you 2 again under modulo 5. So what happened now? It is going on cyclically. Again, if you find 2 power 6, it gives you 4. So the cycle is being repeated now from here 2, 4, 3, 1 again. So that's why it is called as a cyclic group. And the head of the family here, the one which is raising the power is giving me all the members of the family. So I say that it is a cyclic group generated by 2. Now, why we have to learn the cyclic group really? Why we have to learn this? This is a very good important application is there for cyclic group in codings. So, and one more thing, whenever I am able to write a code, for the first and foremost thing is I should not express the code whatever I am giving should not take much more space. So it is easy for us if I write it as 2, the cyclic group generated by 2. That is more than enough to say that this is a group 1, 2, 3, 4. It is Z5. Similarly, whenever a group, why I am explaining about this is the next graph is totally depending upon this. So if you understand this, then it will be easy for you. Now coming to when I got a generator, immediately I should think about what is the inverse of this generator. The inverse of this generator is 2 inverse. 2 inverse is what? 2 into what element I get 1? It is 3, right? So 2 inverse is 3. So that implies 3 is also a generator. You can check that as 3 power 1 is 3 and 3 square is 4, 3 cube is 2, like that it goes on. So therefore 3 is also making the other elements. Whereas if you check for 4, 4 power 1 is 4 and 4 square gives you 1. Because 4 square is 16 means 1. And 4 cube is 64 which gives you 4 again. So 4 power 4 is giving you 1 again. So here you can observe that you have completed a cycle with 4, 1, 4, 1, but you are not getting the other 2 members of the family. 2 and 3 you are not getting. So you cannot say that 4 is a generator. I hope it is clear now about the cyclic group. The cyclic group is a group where you have the members, you have to select such a member in the group which should we should give all the other members of the group. Then we say that it is a cyclic group generated by these members. So I said that 2 and 3 are only the generators. So once there is an inverse, once we have identified that there is a generator, immediately you can think that the inverse of that element is also a generator. There is, by default it happens. So these are the 2 generators of the graph. So once you understand about the generators of the graph, it will be easy for you to understand what is meant by the how to draw the cyclic group, the graph represented by the cyclic group. So let us go to that particular graph structure where you have a cyclic group. To understand this, now here our students have done the work, started their work, where how to draw the inverse graphs, because we have done with the identity graph and we have done with the zero divisor graph. And to understand the inverse graph, you have to get the knowledge of a cyclic group. Then only we will proceed further. So let us look at this particular group where a cyclic group is there, tau comma circle, where tau is the name of the group, circle is an operation, some operation, and SB a non-empty set of that tau, where that tau is the name of the group, which consists of all non-self-invertible elements of tau. What is meant by the non-self-invertible elements? That means in the previous case about the Z5 you take, the non-self invertible means one inverse is 1 itself, correct? And 2 inverse is 3 and 3 inverse is 2 and 4 inverse is what? The inverse of 4 is 1 because 4 into 4 is 1. I hope you are able to follow. In this group Z5, if I just go through the inverses, what are the self-invertible elements? I take that 1 inverse is 1 and I can also say that 4 inverse is 4, correct? So these two are the self-invertible elements. One is the inverse of itself. These two are the self-invertible elements. So in this particular Z5, we are going to construct a set which are non-self-invertible elements. That means 2, 3. Okay. My group is Z5 and I'm constructing a subset of that group which is consisting of all such type of non-self-invertible elements. And once it is been identified that non-self-invertible elements, then we are able to draw the graph where you have a non-self-invertible elements graph where you are going to draw the edges or connections you are going to give for those type of elements in the groups. I'll just go to that cyclic group. Yeah. So such type of groups denoted by GS of tau and whose vertices are the elements of the group and the edges are formed by joining the two distinct elements X and Y of tau if and only if X circle Y belongs to S. So what we have understood there, the elements 2 and 3 are the members of S, right? So when you take 2 into 3, what is 2 into 3? It is 1, correct? Under Z5, 2 3s are 1. So, and that 1 is a member of the family? No, right? If that belong to S, suppose, then only it will be, and it will, there will be an edge in between the two vertices. Let us have an example here about the inverse graph. Look at this graph now. G of Z3, that means the graph, the inverse graph of Z3 I have taken. Now the vertices are what? 0, 1 and 2. Of course, my 0 to 1 and 0 to 2, it is there. And you cannot draw from between 1 and 2. What are the non-self-invertible elements in this graph? If you take under addition, it is under addition now. 0 is, whenever 0 is there, you can think that it is the addition is the operation. And under addition, what is the self-invertible element? 0 itself. 0 inverse is 0. And 1 inverse is what in Z3? 1 plus what is 0? 1 plus 2 is 0. So 1. And what is 2 plus what element is 0? 2 plus 1. So when I add 1 plus 2, I get which is 0. And 0 is not there in my S. So there is no edge in between 1 and 2. I repeat, try to understand. When I draw the graph for Z3, I want to draw the inverse graph. That means you are going to join the two vertices. Okay. When we join the two vertices, if their bonding, whatever, now the bonding here or the relation between is what? The operation is here addition. 0 plus 1. And in this, my S is what? I cannot write here. My S is what? The non-self-invertible elements, which are 1 and 2. So when I add 1 and 2, I will be getting 0. But 0 is not there in S. So there is no edge in between. Let us look at this graph, Z5, where, of course, minus 0. Because then what do you mean by this? This is under multiplication. Clear? So now, my Z5 consists of the elements 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So I want to join the edges. How I am going to join? And in Z5, I am sure that 2 and 3 are only the self-invertible elements because 2 into 3, 1 inverse is 1 and 4 inverse is also 1. These two are the self-invertible elements, whereas 2 and 3 are the non-self-invertible elements. So I am now going to join the two vertices 1 and 3. When I join 1 and 3, 1 into, now operation is the multiplication, right? So 1 into 3 gives you 3 and which is there in the set? Yes, correct? So there is an edge. Coming to 3 and 4, when do you find out an edge in between? 3 into 4 is 2, correct? 3 4s are 12 under modulo 5 it is 2 and 2 is present in yes. So 3 and 4 are adjacent. Let us come to 4 and 2. 4 and 2 product is 3. 4 and 2 is 8. 8 modulo 5 is 3. And 3 is present in our yes. So there is an edge. And 1 into 2 is 2. It is also present in the graph, in the set yes. And so 1 and 2 is adjacent. Look at this one, 2 and 3. 2 into 3 is what? It is 2 into 3 is what? 1. And 1 is self-inverse, which is not present in 1, in yes. So 2 and 3 are not adjacent. And similarly, 1 and 4. 1 into 4 is 4. And being 4 as a self-invertible element, it will not be present in yes. So there is no edge in between 1 and 4. I hope you could understand what is meant by the inverse graph. The inverse graph is in such a way, it will be the edges, the vertices will be adjacent in such a way that the two vertices, the operation in between the two elements becomes a member in the particular set, in the set of all non-self-invertible elements, suppose. Then only there is an edge in between the two graphs. So like that, we can get a connected graph for the given group. And then our motivation has increased in such a way that what happens if we extend the graph, the inverse graph, we extend, suppose, then what happens? And we have given one augmented inverse graph. Augmentation means we are going to extend the graph. So for the graph Z4 only, we have to extend the graph, suppose. Then how to find out we have done this research for finding out the graph, what is the chromatic number for this, all those researches have been done. But as an introduction, how to go from group to graph, I'm just giving a presentation here. Coming to the augmented inverse graph, we have given an algorithm to understand how to construct this augmented inverse graph. As for this, there is one more set we are going to introduce as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 are the four vertices. Similarly, we are going to introduce another new set of vertices 1 dash, 2 dash, 3 dash, and 4 dash or 0 dash. Okay, 0 dash, 1 dash, 2 dash, and 3 dash. Apart from this, we are going to introduce one more new vertex, which is a new leading vertex, which is U. We will join in such a way that this U will be analogous to the identity vertex, how it is. And then U will be joined with all the vertices, 1 dash, the new set of vertices. And the other elements, 0 dash to 0 is adjacent to, what that means, 0 is a neighbor of 1 and 3. The graph which is in red is the original graph. And the whole extensions we have drawn in the other color, so that we can understand what is the augmented inverse graph. So how we have drawn is 0 is neighbors are 1 and 2, 1 and 3. 1 and 3 are the neighbors of 0, right? So 0 dash also must have the neighbors as 1 and 3. Similarly, once a neighbor is 0 and 2. So 1 dash neighbor also must be 0 and 2. 2's neighbors are 1 and 3. So 2 dash neighbors also should be 1 and 3. Like that, we will join the graph, we will find out the augmented inverse graph, and there are wonderful applications in networking here. When I remove suppose if I have a largest network and I can augment the given network and then come back to this original graph and then find out the chromatic number of that. And there is a link between the finding out the chromatic number of this graph as well as this graph. We have made a relationship between the chromatic numbers of the augmented inverse graph and this graph, so that we can understand what is the group Z4, how it is being extended to the augmented inverse graph. Then coming to the next graphs, the rainbow connected graphs. It's again another very interesting concept of rainbow connected graph. It is given by many authors have written. This is again a function, of course, but it is little bit different with the chromatic number. Generally, the chromatic number says that the minimum number of colors which we use to color the graph in such a way that the adjacent edges should receive different colors. That is what the definition normally we learn about the coloring of the graph. But this is really a very interesting way the author has defined in such a way that the edges will be colored with different colors. Then the adjacent edges may be colored the same, If that is the case, how to understand this definition, really I took 2 months. I don't, I really feel that how much depth is there in this particular definition. So once you color the two adjacent edges with the same color, then what is the beauty of it? How do you say that it is rainbow? So then let us read the sentences. You can understand that the path in the graph G is called as a rainbow path if no two edges of it are colored the same. So we are concentrating on not on the whole graph, because we are concentrating only on the path. In a path, if you are able to find out the two edges are that means the adjacent edges are colored with the same, are colored with the different colors, then we say that that's a rainbow path. So not about the whole graph. Okay, because why this concept is being introduced, according to my knowledge, what I thought is, whenever a biggest network is given to us, then we cannot understand if you start coloring for different colors with the different edges, and of course, even though they are adjacent edges, you will give different colors, but there are many network is there, you have to. But here, if you just concentrate on only on that path, for a computer programmer, it is easy to identify a path from a particular vertex to another particular vertex. And then we can extract that path and see that the edges should receive different colors. Then we say that it is a rainbow connected. That is what he has wonderfully explained, this rainbow connected path. And then there is a UV path in between. That means in between every pair of vertices, if you are able to find out such a rainbow connected path is there in between every pair of vertices, suppose, then we say that it is a rainbow connected graph. It is said to be a rainbow connected graph. If the path distance is the same with the minimum number of colors used, suppose, then it is called as a strongly rainbow connected graph. So I used this concept, why can't we use for our group structure also? So that my beloved students have done the work on this, and let us have this one first of all, geodesic. What is meant by the geodesic means, whenever a pair of vertices are given, and those pair of vertices are said to be the geodesic, if the distance between the vertices is equal to the length of the rainbow path between U and B. The length of the rainbow path between U and B. That means, suppose in between U and V, the path consists of 3 edges. Okay, the path between U and V is, suppose 3 edges are there. Then the distance between, the minimum, the shortest distance between U and V also is 3, suppose, and it happens for every pair, suppose, then we say that it is strongly rainbow connected graph. So this is what the graph says, that the strongly rainbow connected. If it is a rainbow UV geodesic for every pair of vertices U and V in G, then such a graph is called as the strongly rainbow connected graph. So we have worked on this by introducing an algorithm how to construct the strongly rainbow connected graph for a certain set of groups. So here, if I consider a group of Z7, a strongly rainbow connected graph is ZS of Z7, suppose. This is what the graph, Z7 means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 vertices are there. And you see the rainbow connected path here. I wanted to explain the path here in this, there is a path from 1 to 6, suppose. I want to find out in between every pair of vertices. I've given few examples here as 1 to 6, what is the path? 1 to 6, when I consider, it is from 1 to 5, 5 to 6. Let us go to that slide now. 1 to 5 and 5 to 6. So the distance is of course 2, and the length of the rainbow UV path is also 2. So let us go to 1 to 5 and 5 to 6. 1 to 5 and then 5 to 6. So the path between 1 to 6 is 1 to 5 and 5 to 6. And you can observe that the path between 1 to 6 is having 2 edges, and both the edges are having the 2 different colors. Let us go back to our path between 2 and 5. 2 and 5 gives you 2 to 4 and 4 to 5. 2 to 4 and 4 to 5. So that means 2 to 4 and 4 to 5. 4 to 5. So that means 2 to 4 and 4 to 5 are receiving different colors. So try to understand that it is rainbow connected. Why? Because there is no compulsion that the two adjacent edges, here if you observe 4 and 6 and 4 and 5, both of them are having the same colors. But we are not bothered about that. Even of course, all the three, 4 and 6, 6 and 5 and 5 and 4, all of them are having the same colors. The adjacent edges may receive same colors. But when I am considering about the path, if I am able to find out a rainbow connected path, then that is a rainbow connected graph. So now in the similar way, if you go from 4 to 3, suppose 3 to 6 and 6 to 4, that is also happening to be two edges with two different colors. So now I am able to find out that in this whole graph Z7, the distance between any pair of vertices is 2, of course, and the path, there is a rainbow connected path, and that length is also 2, and therefore every pair of vertices are geodesic, and hence it is a strongly rainbow connected graph. So the group is Z7. From that we are able to draw the inverse graph. This is basically it is an inverse graph. I hope you could understand. Basically it is an inverse graph. That means 0 is connected with all the elements, and in Z7 the self-invertible, non-self-invertible elements we need to get. So for them, in between them only I should see the adjacency. So then we say that for this inverse graph, we are able to see that this is a strongly rainbow connected graph. The next variety of the graphs are generator graphs. What is meant by the generator graph? As I explained you about the cyclic group, we know that the cyclic group is a group which should satisfy the condition that there must be an element, and when it is x star any number of times you do, you will get the other elements which are present in the group. Then we say that that particular element is generating the whole. So look at this graph, how wonderfully, and this is not our definition. It is the definition given by Vasantha Kannaswamy only. X is adjacent to Y if and only if X star A is Y, where A is the generator of the cyclic group. That means your A is the generator. You are going to operate the generator with the member of the group, and you are getting a combination with the Y. So this gives you the generator graph. So let us look at this generator graph of the cyclic group, which is a fourth roots of unity. What I have, we have just shown the example of fourth roots of unity as 1 minus 1 I minus I and so on, right? So the generators are I and minus I, as you know. So how to draw the generator graph by using these generators? Let us look at this now. Now, the vertices are 1 minus 1, I and minus I. So how we are connecting these vertices? When I operate 1, my generators are what actually? I, correct? When I multiplied with I get I. So 1 and I are connected. When I multiply with I get I into I is minus 1, and so I and minus 1 are connected. When minus 1 is multiplied with I get minus I, and so these two are connected. Minus I when multiplied with minus I get 1, and therefore these two connected. Are you able to understand? So, and you see, you can observe that 1 with I or minus I, with I if you multiply, you will not get minus 1, no? So there is no edge. And I n multiplied by I, you don't get minus I, right? So there is no edge. I hope you are able to understand. So one thing is here, one more observation here is for finding out this generator graph. A wonderful concept we are able to identify here is when I multiply with one generator as I as the generator in this, like this in the clockwise direction, I am getting the connection. And the inverse of I is what? Minus I, right? And under multiplication, I am telling the inverse of I is minus I, right? So when I multiply in the anti-clockwise direction for this cyclic group, for 1, if I multiply with minus I get this. When I multiply minus I with minus I get this. With I multiply minus 1 with minus I get this. So what happened here? This is what, anti-clockwise if you go, then you are able to find out the connection with the inverse of the element. And if you go into the clockwise direction, you will get one way of connecting of the graphs. So this is what the generator graph outside, which has come, which was evolved actually, we should say, from the generator graph is being evolved from the cyclic group with the help of the generators. The generator graph of nth roots of unity, you can see the cube roots of unity, 1 omega square when you go to join. I have the generators are 1 omega is 1 omega into omega square into omega, like that. The nth roots of unity you go, then you will get this type of a graph. So then this is nothing but the generator graph, and this graph explains about the nth roots of unity. So now the generator graph of Z12, suppose if I want to take under addition. Of course, this is a Z12 is a cyclic group, right? Zn in fact under addition is a cyclic group. So the generators are what? For one is a generator, of course, 1, 11. Correct? 1 and 1 inverse is 11. So both of them are the generators. Similarly, 5 is a generator. 5 inverse is 7. So 5 and 7 are the generators. I hope you could understand that the generators are which are totally taking all the elements in the family. 1 is taking and even 11 is taking. 5 is also producing all the members, and 7 is also producing all the members of the family. So these are the generators. So how to draw the graph of this 5, 11 and this one. See the graph now. This is Z12. When you have the two generators are 1 and 11, when you multiply, when you add 1 with 1, of course you will be getting the outside, the boundary you will be getting, because 1 is the generator. So 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3, so they are connected. 3 plus 1, 4 plus 1, they are connected. So the outside boundary you are getting when you add with the generator 1. 1 inverse is what? 11, right? So let us go in the anti-clockwise direction. 1 plus 11 is 0. 0 plus 11 is 11. 11 plus 11 is 10. I mean to say it is under Z12, okay? And 10 plus 11, this much, this much, this much, like that. When you go in the anti-clockwise direction, you are able to get the other elements, and that is what, okay, this is what the boundary, okay? And let us go to 5 as the generator. So when I want to join the elements with 5 must be joined with what element? It should be joined with 10, suppose. 5 plus 10 is how much? 3. So, 5 plus the generator, whenever I join with 1 with 5, what is the element? 6. 1 plus 5 is 6. Next, for 6, what I have to add the generator as? 6 plus 5 is 11. 11 plus 5 is 4. Correct? 11 plus 5 is 16, under modulo 12, it is 4. 4 plus 5 is 9. 9 plus 5 is 2. 2 plus 5 is 7. 7 plus 5 is 0. So, and 0 plus 5 is 5. 5 plus 10 is, 5 plus 5 is 10. So, it has become a cycle. The graph also has become a cyclic graph. The cyclic group has been made as a cyclic graph. Similarly, if you observe, 5 inverse is 7, right? So, if you add 1 to 7, 1 plus 7 if you add, suppose 1 plus 7 is what? 8. So 1 plus 7 is 8. 8 plus 7 is 15. 15 means 3. 3 plus 7 is 10. 10 means 3 plus 7 is 10. And 10 plus 7 is 5. 5 plus 7 is 0. 0 plus 7 is 7. 7 plus 7 is 2. 2 plus 7 is 9. So this is also a cycle. See, the beauty of a cyclic group now, with which has been interpreted as a cyclic graph. That's an invention of a cyclic group with a cyclic graph. And then let us have a look about the isomorphism. I don't want to explain more about the isomorphism here. There's no much time, I think so. So isomorphic graphs based on the isomorphic groups also. So then we have ventured into the isomorphic groups where isomorphic graphs are also there. Isomorphism in between the two groups are there. So how to introduce between those two? So we can always say that isomorphism means what we generally give the notation as, yes, the two structures, or in between there is a 1 1 on 2, and there is a construction of f of a star b is f of a star f of b. So that type of a mapping exists in between the two structures. Then we say that there is an isomorphism, of course. Coming to the isomorphic graphs means we have defined in a different way. As isomorphic graphs means both the graphs must have the same number of vertices, same number of edges, and there must be a one-to-one correspondence between the adjacency of the vertices also. So that means if a vertex is having so and so degree with the so and so neighbors, the same thing should happen for the degree also the same, and same adjacency also should follow the same with the other graph. This is what the classical definition we give for isomorphism graphs. How to give a link in between the isomorphic groups and isomorphic graphs. So here, let us understand that Z3 and U3, both of them are isomorphic groups. So when I draw the generated graph, suppose, because my group is Z3, which is a cyclic group, and I'm adding with the 1, suppose 0 plus 1 is 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 0 in Z3. Similarly, when I go to multiplication, U3, so the cube roots of unity, if I consider 1 multiplied by omega, because omega is the generator, correct? So 1 times of omega is omega, omega times of omega is omega square times of omega is 1. So we are able to get a cyclic group, and both of them are having the one-to-one correspondence. So we can say that both the groups are isomorphic according to our group structure. And when you draw the generator graphs for these two, also they are isomorphic, and they are becoming here the two regular graphs. The regular graphs in the sense that the degree must be the same for every vertex in the graph. So that means same means here the 2, it is the degree for every vertex. So both of them have become the two regular graph, and the order is the same, the size is the same. So both of them are isomorphic. So the isomorphic graphs are based on the isomorphic groups. So whatever we have done in this session, in this particular session, is identity graph. We have defined what is meant by the zero divisor graph, what is the inverse graph, what is the augmented inverse graph, the rainbow graph, the strongly rainbow connected graph, the generator graph, and the isomorphic graphs. So this type of is still so many other graphs we can produce by giving so and so definitions, so that the main agenda is group structure should become more easy by understanding the graph structures, so that it will be we can make a group to be in a easier way for the student community. So now I wanted to see about the roadmap of this. The group first I have defined, and then I have defined the identity graph. Then we have come to the zero divisor graph, and then we have gone to the inverse graph, and then we have defined the generator graph, and then the isomorphic graphs. Of course, in between the rainbow connected graph, which is been linked up with inverse graphs only. So therefore, I have not given here, but the base graph is the inverse graph. In that only we have made a discussion about the rainbow connected graph, strongly rainbow connected graph, what will be the rainbow connected number. And we are not supposed to link between, supposed to understand that chromatic number is not the same as the rainbow connected number. So with that, I wanted to complete my session. And the SWOT analysis, just I have thought about this particular area of my research. As the strength is, of course, the representation always makes the subject easy, right? But it can be difficult for everyone to follow until and unless somebody explain you about the graph. So that if that is being done very easily by using an algorithm, then I think it will be a little more easy for anybody to understand. And there are many opportunities, of course, for by using, because group theory is for coding. I hope you know about group theory, how it is been introduced in coding for 1-1 onto mappings are also very much useful in coding. For coding, you need 1-1 mapping. For decoding, you need onto mapping. Once it is a bijection, then we can see the coding and decoding very easily by using the group structures. Coming to networking means we need graph theory for networking. So if you link both of them, it will be a wonderful tool for computer networkings with the help of the security, and for the social society also it may be useful, I thought, as the opportunity. Coming to the threats means the security of the content. I don't know how much it is true, but I think that because nowadays everything must be secured, but at the same time hacking is also happening. What is the best way of securing is of course coding, but how much strong the coding should be also must be done. So these are the threats, I hope, about this particular area of research. And this is being done by most of our students. So special thanks to all my research students. We have worked on this. And with this, I wanted to complete my session. I hope people are there. Any questions? You can ask me the questions regarding this.
Thank you, ma'am. Such remarkable patience can only be the product of diligence and tenacity. On behalf of the management, a million sincere thanks to you for the sea of wisdom and knowledge you showered with during your amazing presentation. Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to the participants. If you have any doubts regarding the presentation, you are given to the interactive Q&A session with the resource person, which is open now. You can ask your questions.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes, very good afternoon.
I have a question, ma'am.
Yes, tell.
If I take graph theory for research purpose, and since the opportunities in coding and network, what will be my research area in particular to coding and networking?
Of course, suppose if you are really interested in graph structures, now there are many open problems in networking, because day by day the research is going to be continued, right? Whatever the new things are coming, immediately the next day, the next second day, third day itself, you are going to get a new mobile in the market, right? So definitely research is always open. So definitely, and that too, that is totally depending upon the networking, and networking is depending upon graph theory, correct? So wide applications are there for in graph theory. You can use it, and you can do wonderful work. By understanding the group structures, you can do very nicely the research in graph theory.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes, good afternoon.
Ma'am, there is a graph called signed graph, whether it is applicable for chemical graphs and algebraic graphs, ma'am?
Yeah, signed graphs. Signed graphs are done by Dr. Acharya. Mrs. Mukti Acharya is the one who has done wonderful work, like a mother of graph theory she is. Signed graphs are very much useful in chemical graphs. Very much useful in chemical graphs, and many applications, like where there is a plus, you will be giving the signs for the graphs, where you will have some sort of information about the pair of vertices, in between the pair of vertices. So that is very much useful in many of the applications.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Is there anyone waiting to clear your doubts?
Yes, you are always welcome to ask me the doubts, and my mail ID is, of course, is available with you people. You can ask the doubts and you can mail me whatever you wanted to do regarding the research and the new areas of research we can explore towards the knowledge. This is the quest of knowledge, right? We have to find out the areas and we have to find out the ways to understand the concepts.
Thank you, ma'am. It's an honor to have a personality like this. We are delighted to have Dr. J. John Arokiraj, Vice Principal and Head of the Department of Mathematics, for being such an eligible person with such a good experience to guide the students. With my profound gratitude, I welcome our Vice Principal to deliver his talk.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Dear and respected ma'am, thank you
Good afternoon.
for joining this particular webinar. I think I have asked Dr. Ganesh for his cooperation for this webinar, but he suggested you as a very nice person. So really, we thank you for your active participation, and we are very grateful for your acceptance to be the resource persons today for ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am. And also, I wish to place my congratulations to the organizers, Dr. Devi Shyamala ma'am and Dr. Angel Moser and other student coordinators for having done this work properly, nicely. And I wish to thank all the faculty members from other institutions and our own institution, and my beloved students also. I think they would have benefited much out of your talk, ma'am. So thank you so much. And we will be meeting. And there is a proposal for making you in the campus for another conference, ma'am. So thank you so much, ma'am. So my convey my regards to Dr. Ganesh, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Sure.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Divya, you can resume, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. The feedback registration will be given in the Google Meet link. I request the participants to give away the feedback of the session.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Today, international webinar on recent advanced in mathematical science and its application presented by Dr. Nandi Raju Nagamaruthi on the topic graphical representation of groups. It was very interesting to listen. And of course, as a resource person, interacted with some of our students by clearing their doubts. This session was wonderful and very helpful among the students to gain knowledge in graphical representation of groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Angel Moose and the Department of Mathematics. The wonderful opportunity all of you have given me in this platform. Thanks to all the members and the students community and all the other staff people. Thank you so much to St. Joseph's College. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. This is to invite Dr. S. Angel Moose, Assistant Professor from Department of Mathematics, for the deliverance of the vote of thanks.
Yes. A lovely and warm morning to all. It's a matter of pride for me that I am proposing a vote of thanks for this webinar session. I, on behalf of PG and Research Department of Mathematics, my sincere thanks to our Father G. Peter Rajendran, Secretary, St. Joseph's College of Arts and Science, for his permission to conduct this webinar. Thank you, Father. My sincere thanks to Dr. M. Arumaiselvam, Principal, St. Joseph's College of Arts and Science, for his support. Thank you, sir. My sincere thanks to Dr. J. John Arokiraj, Vice Principal, Head of the Department, and Convener of this webinar, for his guidance. Thank you, sir. My sincere thanks to Reverend Father Dr. S. Xavier, Controller of Examination, St. Joseph's College of Arts and Science. Thank you, Father. My sincere thanks to Reverend Father Dr. A. Alex, Dean of Studies, St. Joseph's College of Arts and Science. Thank you, Father. And sincere thanks to our resource persons, Dr. Nandi Raju Naga, Maruti Kumari Ma'am,